Hello and welcome to Impact. I'm Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville. Always glad to be able to be here with you to share information about things that are happening in our community and our region that we think of some interest to you. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very important topic that I think all of you will be interested in. It's one that surrounds us all the time, but we don't always talk about it the way we're going to talk about it tonight. And I'll introduce my guest in just a moment. You know, according to the USDA, about 1 in 6 Americans is food insecure, and about 1 of every 4 of those is a child. This is a very serious concern that we have, not just in this community, but also around the nation. And it's one that is often addressed through food drives and other kinds of campaigns to be able to put food on people's table. Well, tonight we're going to give you a little 101 on this particular topic, and we're going to do it with some, I'll call them experts, whether they want to be experts or not. I want to first of all introduce Kathryn Strickland. She is the Executive Director of the North Alabama Food Bank, an incredible organization that we're going to tell you all about tonight. Kathryn, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you so much, Kenny. So happy to be here.
And we have Fran Flueller. Fran is the Executive Director of the Manor House, which is an organization that provides, it's a nonprofit organization, 501c3.
That's correct.
That provides food services for people in our community who have a need, meaning that people who are hungry and need to be able to get access to food. And they do it on a regular basis. I think some of the things that Fran is going to share with you tonight are going to be astounding, but that's why you're here tonight, so that we can help people really understand what the challenges in our community. Welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
All right. I think it'd be great to start with Kathryn. You know, it's been probably several months ago when I had an opportunity to meet you for the first time. I was participating in a leadership program with the city of Huntsville with a group of other city leaders. And we were getting an opportunity to visit with multiple agencies throughout the community and find out what they were doing. And it was really my absolute first visit to the food bank. I mean, I knew it was there. I've driven by it. I've seen it. I've heard about the work that's been done. But meeting you for the first time and hearing about your extensive experience and knowledge about this process was phenomenal to me. So much so that after that meeting, I walked up to you and said, I've got to talk to you some more because I've got to find out about what's happening. And hopefully we can help people know about what's happening as well. So let's start right there. Talk about what the food bank is, the North Alabama Food Bank, why it exists, and anything else that you'd like to share.
Sure. Well, we are a local hunger relief charity, and we supply food to partner feeding programs across 11 counties in North Alabama. And these can be church food pantries, children's backpack programs, soup kitchens, shelters. And we also work proactively to seek solutions to end hunger and poverty. So we also have programming aimed at the root causes of hunger and poverty.
So when I see a soup kitchen or a food pantry somewhere, am I to automatically assume that they're connected to the North Alabama Food Bank or some of those independent operations?
Right. I wouldn't automatically assume, but we do have over 240 partner feeding programs across 11 counties. And of course, Fran is one of our dear, dear partners that we love working with. And it really does take this kind of village and this kind of network to address the issue of hunger. And just to give you a sense of scale, last year the food bank supplied over 7 million pounds of food to 229 partner feeding programs. And this is a 1.3 million increase over what we did last year.
Wow. So you're having to provide more food in a year's time. Obviously because there are things that are happening in communities that are having an impact on that. And that actually is one of the questions I wanted to ask you about. Oftentimes when we think about feeding programs, we think about, and maybe we can bust some myths tonight as well. We think about, well, that feeding program is for poor people or people that live in a certain part of the community. I would imagine that with issues such as sequestration, the government shutdown that occurred this past fall, that you saw some, perhaps what many people would think, non-traditional families and individuals come looking for services. Am I right about that?
That's exactly right, Kenny. And then just the other day, one of our partners came in and said that things have really changed, that the volunteers that he used to have at the church food pantry are now standing in line.
Wow.
And so when we hear things like the United Paper shut down and Pilgrim's Cry closing down, all of these job losses compile, and we see the effects almost immediately at the food bank and with our partners.
Yeah. Fran, of course, you're one of those partners, and we're really glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
I know I met you several years ago when the 100 Black Men of America's mentees came down and helped prepare Thanksgiving baskets and boxes, actually. And they had such a wonderful time. And, you know, I watched you and your energy, and you were like a human dynamo moving through that building and instructing people and pitching in where you needed to pitch in and doing all kind of great things. And the thing I think that struck me the most was not just the passion and the compassion that was shown in terms of the work, but also the need. It was obvious there was a huge need. From your perspective as director of this operation, what are you seeing on a regular basis? And then what can you tell people listening to this show about the scope of the problem of hunger in our community?
Well, I appreciate that you and many others have come down and seen it for yourself. I would say if they came in person, it would impact them just like it's impacted you and me and Kathryn and many others. Manna House is made up of so many different volunteers. Some of the volunteers are people that were in that line 4 and 5 years ago needing help. Now they don't, so they're here to give. I see a real fluctuation. People who were in the past considered a middle class are maybe upper, lower class now because everything's escalating. More taxes are coming out, more costs, more healthcare costs, more situations with furlough and sequestration cause people that never thought they would ever have to have assistance to suddenly find themselves on the line side of needing to come and get food. But it's uncomfortable. So it's easier to come and volunteer, get the food while they're there, and then go home. They can bring their kids can get something to eat while they're there. I see such a difference in the elderly. We hear about the elderly, we hear about the cost of medications, and maybe one spouse has to have 24-hour care, and so those resources are going very quickly. And so suddenly they're in the line, and they may just need hygiene items, or maybe they need pet food. And so the needs are very diverse. Many are there because of bad wrecks or they're on chemo or dialysis, but all the same, the need is there, and I see it growing every day.
On a daily basis, and this is probably something that we're going to try to maybe average out a little bit, but over the course of a year, say, on a daily basis, about how many people do you see?
It really varies, depending, like last night was the first of the month, so the line was small. We fed about 1,000 families with, well, I say fed, we provided food for 1,000 families, and some took meals ready to eat, but many just took the groceries or the fresh produce.
Well, 1,000 sounds like a big number to me. Of course, you're right in the thick of it, but that sounds like a big number to me.
It sounded like a big number to me 5 years ago, too.
Wow.
I just didn't realize our city had that many people who were right on the edge of barely making it. And then some nights we see upwards of 2,500, 2,800 families, especially the last week of the month, where maybe mom had to take kids for strep tests and the copay took it, and just that little bit just needs enough to get her through to payday. Or it might be dad, say car wrecks, because there's so many people injured in car wrecks that are waiting for insurance to come, but in the meantime, they still got to feed their family.
In a day, you're saying that somewhere between, you could see toward the end of a month, 2,500, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 families.
Yes.
That's a big number.
Huge number.
Any way you look at it, that's a big number.
Sad number.
And a very sad number.
Very.
And yet, I imagine the average person in this city has no clue as to how many people. Now, you know, and if it was 300, it would be a lot of people, obviously.
You're right.
If it was 30 people, it'd be a lot of people.
You're right.
But when you say there are somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 potential families who are being fed on a daily basis, we didn't say a month, on a daily basis, and yet we drive up and down the Parkway every day or cut across Governors, and that's really the intersection where Manor House is, or we move about different parts of the city, going to work, doing our thing.
That's right.
The majority of people have no clue as to the need that exists right here in a city as technologically sound and advanced as Huntsville is, as economically stable as it
That's right.
often appears to be, has no clue that this number of people have a need in the city.
I truly was not even aware of it myself, Kenny. As the numbers grew, I kept asking questions. And as you and I discussed in the past, the needs assessment survey showed how many were under medical treatment. Broke my heart. They don't qualify for food stamps. They fall through the cracks. A lot of people are very much struggling. And people probably have neighbors or maybe watching tonight and saying, hey, how do I get to Manor House?
Yeah.
I'm in that position. They don't know where to go.
Yeah.
I salute the food bank because they're opening more avenues for more food pantries to make it more accessible so that people can come and get that help.
Kathryn, I used the word in terms of introducing this piece, and then I think you were going to say something. You can just add it to this too. Just the whole notion of this concept of food insecurity may be a new concept for a lot of people. They may say, well, you're kind of talking about the food bank. Aren't we talking about hunger? So give us a sense of what that whole term means.
Sure.
And also share what you were about to share.
Well, just talking about how needs have changed in North Alabama. Every 4 years, the food bank and our partner feeding programs, we participate in a national hunger study. And so from 2006 to 2008, we saw the number of people utilizing emergency food service programs jump from an estimated 86,000 individuals to now over 100,000. And I just wanted to emphasize that number, 100,000 people, because this is more than the population of Decatur and Florence combined. Now, this is across 11 counties, but it does give us the scope of need.
Gives you context. Yeah.
And then just last year, we participated in a study that was just focused on childhood hunger, because we knew of the 100,000 that we're serving, an estimated 32,000 are children. But if we look at food insecure households across North Alabama, there's actually 59,000 children living in food insecure households today.
Wow. And we know that everything that child is tied into his or her ability to get good, consistent nutrition.
Absolutely. It is the building blocks of your health, of academic achievement, of job readiness. It's the building blocks of health.
Yeah, yeah. 59,000.
59,000.
Wow.
But you had asked a question about what does food insecurity really mean, and it just means that the members of the household do not have access to enough food to lead a healthy, active life. That they do not know where their next meal is coming from. And Fran here is on the front lines, seeing it every day.
Yeah.
So more and more residents are having to make the choice between paying the utility bill and food, and now we're seeing a shift paying the difference between paying for medicine and food.
Fran, as Kathryn was talking, you're a frontline trooper. You're in the trenches on a daily basis. Does Manor House operate 365 days a year?
Well, technically, no. Technically, our real hours are Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We're open for volunteers 2 to 7 and for the people to come through the line 4 to 7. Obviously, we don't leave right at 7. We leave when the last person comes through the line. And then there are other days that we're there just to offer extra assistance. Some weekends out of the month, we provide one harvest food ministry, which I know 100 Black Men of America participated in at Thanksgiving. That's a food box that people can go online and order. It gives them fresh fruits and vegetables that have been quick frozen and meat. And it's a marginal price, and they can go online and order that, and then they can pick it up. But then we have other free feeding programs that occur, such as the first Saturday of every month. And what we'll do this weekend will be hot soup, stews, and chilies, just trying to get a child something warm in their tummy for the weekend. And the backpack program, of course, we're very involved in. As you know, that's my passion, is that no child be hungry in our county. And so we're very grateful for the many volunteers that come and donate time and their resources so that we can feed children. And that program just simply gives food to get through the weekend, to not be hungry until they can get back to school on Monday. And I'm just one of many people in our amazing community that help provide that food.
That's right. You're one, even though you're not open 365, you're open sufficiently enough to cover a large group of people. And of course, through the partnerships in these 11 counties, you have multiple sources that people can tap into to be able to try to get access to food and bridge the gap for that food insecurity dilemma. Also, as a frontline person, you see people who may share their stories from time to time. I'm sure you hear lots and lots of stories from people who come through those lines and are just basically in a very deep pit, feeling a very serious need and needing to share with you. Is that part of the experience as well?
Yes, it is. And we have a prayer line every night just for people to go through and get prayer. We have a prayer room. We have people that go outside in the cold and the heat and just say, is there anything I pray with you about? Just trying to give them hope and encourage them. Many people share their story, but the joy is when you see 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road, they don't need the food. They're back up on top. They're out there helping serve. They're helping give. They're bringing in donations because that encourages you when you get to see the happy side. Some people don't make it. Some people pass away, but their family's still there. And I had a young man come up last night and hug me and say, thanks again for feeding me, my mom, and my brothers and sisters. His mom passed away, and I was able to say, where are y'all? How are you doing? He said, actually, I didn't come for any food. Just came by to hug your neck. That blessed my heart. And even though I miss his mom being around, I'm so blessed to know that the kids made it. All of them are doing good. They're all going to make it. And that's our community, just loving on each other.
Yeah, and I'm sure you see a lot of success stories and all of the many difficult situations that you can talk about. I'm sure there are lots of success stories as well.
There are.
That you can share, and I'm sure you see a lot of that too, Kathryn. You, of course, orchestrate a lot of different projects and initiatives and things throughout the community that also include education, as well as volunteer projects such as green bean drops and sweet potato drops. There are some people who may know what I'm talking about, but talk about what those specific initiatives are and how they impact the community.
Sure. Well, the Food Bank has a new initiative where we're helping local farmers sell into local buyers like schools and hospitals. And as a result of that, some farmers are wanting to give back. They're so appreciative to have support and have residents rallying around them. And they're wanting to donate, for example, sweet potatoes that don't meet the size requirements of some of these buyers. So they're either too big or too small. They're delicious sweet potatoes. They just are not the right size. And so we have partnered with a fantastic organization called the Society of St. Andrew that helps us accept 20,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, 40,000 pounds of sweet potatoes at a time, and the Society of St. Andrew helps bring in teams of volunteers to bag and sort these sweet potatoes so that we can make them available to residents in programs like Fran. And it's just a wonderful outpouring from the community. Young and old come out, and it's just incredible to see how much work we can accomplish in 1 hour and 2 hours and how many bags we can do. They're a lot of fun and they're very, very meaningful.
And it's got to give you a great amount of satisfaction just on that point alone. The fact that you've got this big need to be able to bridge that gap between a person's need for food and the food itself. And then you have this outpouring of support from an organization like the Society of St. Andrews, individual volunteers. I know the city partnered with you this year with the leadership program as well. And these folk come out and they just help to make a difference in somebody's life. As a director of a facility that provides services all over these counties, it's got to provide quite a bit of satisfaction and gratification for you to see, and encouragement for you to see people come together who get it. It's like,
absolutely.
Just a little bit of help, it can make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredibly heartening. It can bring tears to the eye. It's really a joyous experience to see that love and that care that people have about their neighbor or their resident or someone that they don't even know. And we're making fresh, healthy food choices available to everyone.
And how do the farmers markets play into this as well? Because this past year, I think I had more farmers market experience than I've ever had in my life. They seem to be popping up everywhere. I'm sure that there's probably some talk about additional ones popping up. So how does that whole initiative play into what you're doing with the food bank?
Well, I love that you said that, Kenny, and that you're loving on the farmers market.
I'm loving it, really. I really am. And the energy at the Green Street Market,
Yes.
for one, is just amazing. I mean, the diversity of offerings, the wide number of people that are there, and just it's almost like it's not just the farmers market anymore. It's like an event.
Exactly.
Like it's the place to be on Thursday night.
Right. It's a time to be together and talk with your neighbor or talk with someone that you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, the food bank has played a small role in basically providing technical assistance to new and beginning farmers markets. And so we actually help link them to farmers that they may not know about, giving new and beginning farmers an opportunity to sell their goods, and then also just creating these great, really community and neighborhood centers. And one farmers market that we particularly have enjoyed partnering with is the Terry Heights Farmers Market, very close to downtown, and it's just been, I've seen you there on many occasions.
That's right.
And it's a great place where residents can just walk over and pick out fresh, literally picked that day, locally grown vegetables. And this is particularly meaningful in a community like Terry Heights because many residents consider it what is known as a food desert, which is a community where many residents don't have reliable transportation and there's not a full-service grocery store in close proximity, but there are a lot of what at the food bank we call fringe food establishments. So a lot of convenience stores that are selling highly processed foods at high prices. And so the fact that there's a farmer's market here where you can get just fresh local vegetables at their peak of their nutritional value, plus they just taste the best.
Yeah, right.
Right then and there. And you get to talk to your neighbor. The Terry Heights Market accepts SNAP benefits, which is formerly known as food stamps. So people can use their benefits there, and it's a triple win because it's a win for the family trying to eat healthy on a limited budget. It's a win for the farmer because they're benefiting from that sale, and it's a win for our local economy because those food dollars are staying local.
Yeah. And you mentioned all those great things that are happening, the idea that people can come, it's a social event, they can mix and mingle with neighbors, they can meet new people. There are cooking demonstrations that are going on here's a healthy way to eat. There's a medical van over there so people can get their blood pressure screened and their cholesterol checked. This is really like the perfect storm of opportunity in a positive way as it relates to putting this good nutritional information and access in communities around Madison County. So this has got to be very exciting. I got to ask both of you, as we begin to wind down our program, are you more optimistic today about where we're going moving forward? I know your numbers have gone up in terms of the need, and there's some economic things that are going on now that create and even perpetuate sometimes a level of uncertainty as it relates to these kinds of things. But are you more optimistic now about the direction of the services that are being provided and the way the community is coming to the support of things like the farmers markets?
Absolutely. Hands down, hunger is a problem that together we can solve.
Yeah.
We absolutely believe this, are committed to this, and just seeing how many people come to a local food drop or the outpouring of people supporting local farmers who they in turn hire people on their jobs. There's all kinds of businesses spinning out of the local food movement. People caring that everyone in our community has access to the healthiest of food choices. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fran, more optimistic?
I concur with, totally in agreement with Kathryn because I see more people coming to the plate that are saying, hey, I want to make a difference. What can I do? We have been very blessed that our community is a giving community, whether it's money or resources or volunteer. Businesses are giving more things. I see more and more companies saying, hey, we want you to do volunteer hours. And when they come and they link arms, they're like, hey, I've got a garden. I can bring you extra tomatoes. I can bring you extra squash. And I love the markets like Kathryn because at the end of the day, they come by Manor House and they drop off and they say, hey, we had this, we couldn't sell it. We just want to bless it to a family. It's very exciting to see what happens to somebody's face that grew up and always had a garden, but is too elderly to tend one, to see that love for those fresh greens that come in on the table or the squash, and they get so excited. And then that person has the privilege of seeing that face. And so the next year they plant a bigger garden. And so I'm very optimistic. I believe that faith-based programs are rising up. I see more churches having pantries. I see more people caring for neighbors, looking at what's going on in their neighborhood. I think that something has happened in our community. I think sequestration and furlough did cause some challenges economically, but it raised a human compassion level for your neighbor. Check on your neighbor. And when the new awning was put in, I know you were there, it was called Cover Your Neighbor. And that's our whole theme, is cover your neighbor. Be a blessing, be a friend, meet the need. Just come alongside of them and offer hope in their season. And I think it's made a difference in our community.
You know, we often talk, and we got a couple of minutes left, but we talk about restaurants, local restaurants that provide food to various services and charities.
Yes.
Do you have that kind of thing happening? And do you also have like maybe some of the local retailers like Walmart, Target, or Kroger's, or those kinds of folk that actually donate to the food bank?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Every day of the week, 5 days a week, the food bank is running a refrigerated truck, and we pick up donated food from Walmart, Target, Publix, Kroger. The list goes on. The commissary at Redstone Arsenal. So absolutely, yes. I mean, when I say together we can solve hunger, it's literally everyone pulling this direction.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is teamwork makes the dream work, and together everyone achieves more.
That's right.
You obviously have a great team process going on here through the North Alabama Food Bank and the work of Manor House, and I certainly commend you on that, simply because I think it's important to do that. It's important to affirm the work that you're doing, and I know you do it because you're very compassionate people, but I just want to affirm the fact that you do it, and I want to thank you for being here today. Kathryn Strickland, she's the Executive Director of the North Alabama Food Bank. Come back and see us sometime.
Thank you so much, Kenny, for spotlighting this really vital, important issue.
This is
really,
very
really
important.
appreciate it.
And Fran Flueller, Manor House, thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And all the great work that you do. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast. We hope that you'll join us again for Impact with Kenny Anderson, when we bring another topic of interest to you that we think will be something that will provide some light on things that are happening in our great city. Thank you for joining us.
Cause I never had a plan.